Okay friends, we are going to start our Statue of Liberty projects. First we're going to start with a drawing before we paint these. You are going to go in and start with a horizontal line for the top of the head. So I don't want to come too far up on the page, but I'm going to draw a line that goes across like this. And then I'm going to do from each side a diagonal line that comes up. This is part of the sides of the crown. And then a curved line that meets from one side to the next. I'm now going to do about 5 triangles on top of this for the top of the crown. If you have more or less, that's fine. Okay, and then I'm going to do a loop for the head. So from one side to the next, I'm going to do the head. I'm going to go from the middle of the forehead and I'm going to draw some curves for the bangs. And your eyes usually go in the middle of your head, so we want to go towards the middle. You're going to do a curve up and a curve down, curve up and a curve down with a circle in the middle for the eyes. I'm now going to do an L shape for the nose, and then for the lips I draw a line, stretched out M at the top, and then another curve at the bottom. For the hair, you're going to come out, do a curve in, kind of like a big L, do that on both sides. Okay, and then we're going to do another line that goes to the bottom from that. And then we're going to do the neck, which is 2 curves that go to the bottom of the page. Make them a little curved, your neck has some curve to it. In the crown, you're going to do some rectangles for the windows in the crown. If you for some reason want to change it up a little bit and maybe do a different shape, you can, but I'm going to keep it to the original and do some rectangles. Okay, now that we have that done, we're going to just go in with crayon and fill a couple of areas. We don't want to do all the areas of crayon, but maybe just to add some patterns and details in our project, just like the artist we were looking at. We're just going to add a few before we go in with our paint. So any color you want, I would start by filling in maybe the shapes you have in the crown. If there's anywhere you want to add pattern in any of the shapes you made, you can. So I'm going to do a diagonal line pattern in the crown. Maybe do a couple lines in my hair. I'm going to fill my eyes in. Okay, so now we're going to think about the background, and remember in art that's the negative space. I did hearts in my original. I want you to think of a shape that you would like to repeat in the background. For this one, I think I'm just going to do some circles. Okay, so now that I have those shapes drawn, I'm going to pick one color that I'm going to now go in and fill those shapes with. Okay friends, that's it for now. Notice I did not go in and color the whole thing. I just added a couple lines and patterns, some things in my background, and some shapes like the pop artist we were looking at. But for the whole area, we're going to be practicing using some paint, okay? So that will be our next step. Okay friends, so at your seats you're going to have a paintbrush, a water cup, and a paint palette. This is only going to be used one time for right now because of COVID. We cannot use our regular paint palettes. So we're going to add some water to our brush. We're going to remember the brush rules, and to get these paints to work you're going to have to rub a little bit of water on them first. What we're going to be basically doing is making kind of like a watercolor from these. So you're going to go in and you want to try to paint really fast with this because we're going to be doing what's called a wet on wet. Please remember to clean your brush and water in between colors, but for right now we're going to be doing what's called a wet on dry, and because our paper is dry, that paper is going to absorb the water really nicely. So in each of the shapes you're going to go in and you're just going to paint around. You don't have to stay super close to inline. Because of the artist we were looking at, they really just added the paint on pretty quick. So in each of your shapes, and you want to do this very quickly, you're going to start to add some paint and you're just kind of applying it really fast on your project. Alright friends, so now I want to go in with red. I made sure to clean all the purple off of my brush before I did that. There can be some areas where those colors can mix, so if I want the red to go a little bit into the purple, I can. We just want to make sure that we're avoiding any colors that do not work well together, and those are my colors that are across from one another on the color wheel. Alright friends, so I think I had that done in about 5 minutes. In art, we usually want to take our time with things, and that's what I always encourage us to do. However, with this particular project, what we want to make sure that we're doing is getting that paper nice and wet for the next step. So now that I have a layer of watercolor that has not dried yet, I'm going to go on top with some more color with a wet brush, and what that's called in art is a wet on wet. So our first layer was a wet on dry because the paper was dry. This layer is going to be a wet on wet, and it's going to have a different effect than we did the first time coming around. So I'm going to find a color, really saturate my brush in it really good, get a lot of water, get a lot of paint, and instead of moving the paper around the page, I'm going to find where it's really glossy and shiny, and I'm going to dip some of that color. I'm just getting a lot of color on that brush, and I'm just placing little dots, and what will happen is those dots are going to expand because your paper is really wet. Now you can experiment by changing the pressure on your brush. If it's not working for you, wet your brush, get a little water. So for example, in her neck, I want to do a wet on her neck, but it's really dry. So I'm going to add just some regular water, okay, before I go in with the color. And now I'm going to take it, and you can really see the difference, how that really expanded, and it's going to give you a different loose look. Okay, if I were to take this and go on top of an area that's dry, it's not going to work as well. So again, if I want to do the hair, it's not working, get a little fresh water, dip your brush in the blue, and just dip it right in there. Okay, so we're going to need to give this some time to dry. So after you're done and it's looking like how you want it, that's looking really great to me. I'm going to keep it like that. You're going to leave it at your spot to dry for a couple of minutes before we go.